Hey folks, welcome to day 9. It is a scorcher today. Awfully hot out there. Be careful. Wear sunscreen. So as we're on to the why. Those of you following along, day 8, we discussed how we're going to create this media text specifically, and now we're going to look at the why. Why was it created? Not why are we creating it, we already looked at that. Why was this specific campaign created? What purpose and audience are the common themes thrown around. We talked about advertisements, and we talked about inferencing. What is the purpose? What is the audience? So as we discussed, there's sort of lots going on in this commercial. We're using this commercial because it's well known. The students have seen it countless times. Hopefully, if they haven't already, they're going to see it in class a lot. We're going to have it. We're going to play it constantly. We're going to rewatch it. We're going to look for specific things. Now we know, even if they haven't seen this commercial, that students are going to witness commercials, on a daily basis. Dozens and dozens of commercials, dependent on, how much TV they watch. But they are going to see a commercial at least a day, probably more. So if we're preparing them for a world, then it's got to be our task to teach the students to critically analyze those commercials and what's going on within a media text. And so we're going to start with some basic questions about the Old Spice ads for our students. They're trap questions, if you will. We know the students know the answers to them. They're very basic answers. They're going to sort of create a level of the surface of the text and what the purpose of the surface is. So, for example, a commercial, what's the purpose of a commercial? It's a good question. And of course, students will say to sell something, to sell me something, to be funny. Then we're going to talk about what is being sold in this specific commercial, body wash. Who is it being sold to? This is our next question. We're getting a little bit deeper here. And of course, it's being sold to a man. Will probably be your common response, as it's summer. I haven't had a chance to do this, but I'll ask people on the street if I get a chance. And then the next question, of course, is going to be a little bit deeper, is who else is it being sold to? Because yes, it's being sold for a man, but when we watch the commercial, what we see is it's actually not being sold to the man, it's being sold to the woman who can give it to a man. So that's sort of where we start to get students a little bit deeper, hopefully a little more critical, a little more analytical, and going beyond the surface of the text is kind of our goal here. We want students to look deeper at the text. So once they've verified, they understand that we're getting a little deeper, they definitely get the surface level. They definitely get it's Old Spice, it's body wash, men smell good, all as well. We can begin to critically analyze the text. We can get past that surface level, break the ice, and really delve into the text and figure out what's actually going on with our students. Remember, this is all modeled, so we're going to do this together with our students. Some group work we want them talking to. We don't want to sit and lecture forever. We want to be really inclusive, but we're taking this text to class, we're breaking it down together. So we're going to ask students questions such as, what type of man is being sold this body wash? Or for what type of man is this body wash being sold? Students should be able to provide us with a list as seen in the commercial. He's tough, he's handsome, he's rugged, he wears a towel, he wants to impress women. The next step is the kicker. And if you can leave it here, it's awesome. But if you can't, we can move on from here. The next question is, what type of man is not being sold this body wash? I would have students reflect on this individually. You want them to really think about that question. I wouldn't let them talk, just write it down. Do something that I call an entrance and exit pass. A lot of people have heard of an exit pass. It's where you write down something before you leave the room. You have to answer a question and you hand it in just so that we can check, as educators, we can check understanding. An exit and entrance pass goes a little beyond that, towards reflection. So the same exit pass applies. Students will write down exit pass. It's not being sold to my father, and they'll hand that in. The hope is the entrance pass part comes the next day. When they enter the class again, they actually have to re-hand in that same question. They have to answer it again in the morning. The hope is that it encourages reflection. So as students are at home, they're watching TV, they see the commercial again, suddenly they start thinking, yeah, but there's more to it than just my dad. Why isn't it sold to my dad? Or there's more to it. My gay uncle, that's not being sold to him. Why isn't it being sold to gay people? Things like that. What about this? It's not sold to, weak men. It's not sold to young men. Who's it being sold to? And hopefully when they come back in the next day, there's a little more reflection, a little more critical analysis. It doesn't always work with all students, but it provides at least an opportunity to think before we speak, which is ideal. Anyways, so the question we pose may lead to some silly answers, and I wouldn't discourage the silly answers. If they're ludicrous, if they're rude, if they're inappropriate, those are different stories, and that's up to your classroom management style. But if, for example, someone says, "Oh, they're not selling it to a smelly bum," then use that to sort of launch a discussion into why isn't it being sold to impoverished people. Correct the vocabulary, but I wouldn't correct the idea, because the idea is essentially correct. It's not being sold to the poor. It's not being sold to people who smell funny. Things like that. If a student says, a gay dude, ask them why. Why isn't this being sold to someone who would be homosexual? Again, we're correcting the language, but we're not correcting the idea, because if the students are coming up with it, then there's probably some form of discussion that can come from it. Because we have to remember that media, and specifically advertisements, are focused on our students, especially adolescent students, intermediate seniors. So when they're coming up with these ideas, I wouldn't squash them unless they're super inappropriate, and then you squash them. But correct the vocabulary, but don't correct the idea, because the idea probably comes from somewhere and can be used as a platform for critical